right. Josh, how are you doing, man? You're getting married soon. How do you feel?
Oh, it's crazy. We booked Airbnbs for all of our friends who are coming from out of province, and one of the Airbnbs canceled on us today. And we live in a small town, so there's not a lot of options, and all the hotels are already booked. So we're trying to get scrappy to figure out where we're gonna house all 12 people.
So I'm guessing you haven't been spending as much time as usual learning about AI and recruitment is what I'm gathering here.
Yeah, just slightly less time than I would usually be doing, but it's
That's
probably more
fair.
than my future wife is hoping that I was spending learning about AI and recruiting instead of planning the wedding. So
Sure. Sure. I always said when I got married, I was like, whatever you like, the 1% of what you like is what I planned. So that was my spiel. But I got you covered today. I actually learned something really interesting that is going to be helpful for all the candidates out there, and then also just helpful for all the recruiters out there to be aware about. There's some interesting things that are happening with AI behind the scenes there, having candidates just be completely overlooked without even realizing it. Even the best candidates, which I
oh,
think,
tell me more. Tell me more.
yeah. When you get a resume, what is your favorite type of resume to get? For me, I typically look at the LinkedIn profile, but when I get a resume, I love people that use Canva for it. So those snazzy like Canva templates where they make it in a Word doc, they'll probably use ChatGPT for some of it, and they'll put it in a Canva template and make the design look really good. And what that just shows me is you actually care about applying for this role. You don't just have a bunch of BS, for lack of a better term, on a Word doc that you're just firing out to every single job posting. The problem is a lot of ATSs have implemented resume parsing technology. You get 500, 1,000 applicants. That is exhausting to go through. So what the applicant tracking systems are starting to do is say, hey, here's 50 out of the 500 that actually demonstrate keywords. You're looking for a developer that is really good with like Node.js, let's say.
Mhm.
If Node.js is in that resume, those people will go to the top. For whatever reason, the limitations with how these softwares have been built is that it will actually have a harder time to identify those keywords and parse out the resumes that are built in a Canva-like way
Interesting.
versus just a standard PDF or a standard Word doc. So
Mhm.
even if you have Node.js and this beautifully designed resume, you won't get actually filtered to the top, which I think is super problematic because those are the candidates that I actually like the best typically.
I was gonna say I stole my way of making a resume from you, and I used Canva for every
I
every
do
role
too.
that I went inside. So I would have never gotten chosen for any of those roles for my career because I would have missed those.
See, now we know why we weren't getting interviews,
That's
Josh.
probably why we had to make a startup instead of work for another big company. Nobody
Yeah.
could track our LinkedIn or resume thing there.
Yeah, so there's two negatives here, and it's on both sides of the process. One, for all the candidates out there that are wondering, like, I sent 100 resumes. I've worked so hard designing this resume, and I'm not hearing back. Well, a part of it's likely the filtering systems, and this is especially true if you're applying to bigger organizations that are
Yeah.
going to have more of these technologies implemented.
Mhm.
Uh, you might just be getting overlooked, unfortunately. Having a resume that is in more of a traditional format when you're applying regularly is the way to go. Whereas if you're applying through a referral or through an introduction or directly speaking to someone, even I don't know if everybody realizes, but you can still go to the physical location of a lot of businesses and hand in a printed resume. I would still use the Canva side for those circumstances. And
Mhm.
then if you are applying through LinkedIn or like an application form that seems like it's powered by a job board, which most do nowadays, be very cautious about an AI's ability to read through that document in an easy way, or else you're going to get overlooked. The other side, for the recruiters out there, you have the all-star CFO candidate, the all-star VP of sales candidate that didn't even get surfaced to you. So I would encourage you to just double check, like, hey, how many aren't getting surfaced? or the ones that are getting surfaced, are they all just plain text, Word docs, normal PDFs? Because you could have that CFO right there, but you missed it because you're relying on AI in a non-effective way,
Mhm.
just based on the side effects of how it's been implemented.
Oh, and I can 100% attest this. When I was with HubSpot before we came, and I mean we were getting hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants for some of the roles that we were looking to fill there. Right? We were trying to use any way that we could to help parse through that information. But the biggest thing that we always heard was when you're going to apply, always apply online, because the one thing you'll always hear from every hiring manager or HR specialist is, hey, have you applied online? Make sure you don't have to say, no, I haven't yet, because that's the instant door shut. Hey, apply online and we'll chat with you then. No, absolutely, I've applied online. Send your resume, like Ryan mentioned, with your Word doc or more of that standard format. But then also, we know you have a better chance of getting placed in a role if somebody knows you at that role. And so, like we should be doing anyways, back channel, talk to other people in the role, outside of that direct role as well, and just get general feedback and see, is there anyone who can help you get that referral into the business with your nice, shiny, maybe Canva-like resume you're looking to send in as well. And I think that's always the best practice that I would recommend. I was talking to my youngest brother. So he's 18 years old now. So just leaving high school, getting ready to go over to college. And I know one of the big things that we're seeing right now in Canada is that youth unemployment's at record highs. The only time it's been this high was actually when I was trying to get a job at that age. And so the biggest thing I told him is that, just like you said, you have to differentiate yourself. Go door to door with your resume and go talk to somebody, because if you can put the face to the name and show that, hey, you might actually be a great individual for this role and just have some spunk and charisma to you, 100% is going to at least get you an interview. It's going to get a conversation started. Now, obviously, if we're looking at this from more business-centric lines, one of the things that I actually heard last Friday, I had somebody who was interested in a role from one of our mutual friends, Ryan, from a leadership perspective. And they're looking to hire and build out their sales team. And so I had a candidate that I knew from the volleyball world, and he got an intro to me, had a conversation with me Friday afternoon, just learning a little bit more about the role, the leader, and the situation. And he was like, hey, this is an opportunity I want to at least try. So he cold called that sales leader at dinner time, because he knew, hey, he's not going to be in a meeting. Let's have a quick conversation. And he loved it. And it was definitely a fantastic way to put a voice to the name. So when he sent over that beautiful, maybe Canva-like resume, it helped him actually get an introduction to get that conversation started and schedule an interview. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, especially my takeaway from what you mentioned, Ryan, is double prong your approach, maybe three prong your approach there to see what are all the channels and avenues I can get to help start a conversation. I think that has to be the key thing that we're looking at today.
Yeah, optimize for the channel, right? Like if you're going to be reaching out to the hiring manager or maybe even an individual contributor on the team that you might be either managing or working in, depending on your tenure level, LinkedIn voice notes are incredible. Send a native LinkedIn voice note, because it's going to be easy to click. People aren't going to be scared to click on it, that it's going to give them some crazy apocalyptic virus or something like that. But when you're, again, sending a resume in, look about what's the best way to send that in a most optimized way for the channel that I'm setting. If it's powered by an ATS that you think might have like some resume parsing technology behind it, send it in a really easy format for the AI to read it. So just thinking about what channels can you attack and go after, and then what's the most optimized way to apply or reach out in all of those channels. And that also goes to the development side too, for all our recruiting friends, right? Like I don't think I've ever got a LinkedIn voice note that I didn't listen to, because it also gives you no context. So it's like, what could they be like? Who knows what they're saying? So I'll at least click play. How long I don't click pause or stop is another question, but I'll click play on every single one.
Well, it's even just the whole idea of when we're doing business development work or trying to get in touch with candidates, we want to leave voicemails, right? If we're calling them on the phone, it's the exact same idea.
Yeah. And even like from a leadership perspective, it's really hard to find people that have a solid work ethic these days, I feel like, especially in like the upcoming talent pool. Could be controversial, but I strongly believe that like it's kind of out of whack these days. Out of 500 applicants, you'll literally be the one person that gave the hiring manager a cold call. You'll be the one person that sent a voice note. everybody will send a templated LinkedIn connection invite. So it's like, how can you differentiate? And again, this applies on being a candidate. This applies being a recruiter on the business development side, is do the things that tend to be pretty easy. It requires a tiny bit of extra effort to differentiate yourself. And immediately you're going to want to work with the person that you feel has the highest work ethic, because that's scarce these days for some reason.
I'll go on another controversial say and say that was a pretty boomer thing for you to say, Ryan, that this generation is different.
I'm 20 years away from being a boomer, my friend. Once I'm actually like that age, who knows how controversial.
You'll be using your like Elon Musk brain chip to like communicate
my Neuralink,
with people.
My Neuralink, like telepathy.
Your Neuralink's gonna be what people are cold calling in those days, not your cell phone. But I think that the message that you're saying though is so true, right? Like you have to be able to do something different than everyone else is doing in order to stand out. Otherwise, you're just gonna be lost in the crowd of every people. And I think that the easiest thing, and I see this all the time on LinkedIn, I believe this as well. I might get one cold call a day, and I know my cell phone number's out there. Now, do I always answer the phone every time I see a phone number ring? No, I'm usually in meetings. But if somebody leaves me a voicemail and they add enough value to something I'm interested in, guarantee I'm reaching back out to them or calling them right back. I think the art of the voicemail and the art of the LinkedIn voice note are totally underutilized in today's day and age, because if you don't know the phone number, you're not always going to pick up. But if you can add value, I guarantee you'll get a call back.
So that's this week in AI and recruitment. Really interesting side effects of implementing AI technology and how it can kind of bite you in the behind, whether you're a candidate or a recruiter, hiring manager, etc. We'll be back as always next week. I'll have a cup of coffee next time. I didn't have a cup of coffee this week, but thanks for listening.
Talk soon, everyone. See you next week.